How's it going, race fans? Jaxon Turner back again in the Accelerated Graphics Studios here with executive producer Kyle Painter. Kyle, how's it going, man?
What's up, everybody?
We got a co-host in the house, the CEO of Ace Speedway himself, Jaxon Turner, here in the studio with a handful of race cars. Jaxon, how you doing, buddy? You doing good? You just playing with cars? That's Jeff Burton. Okay, he's good. So in the house tonight, you know, we didn't have any races last week, so we've got a big race coming up in the prelude to the Rodney Cook Classic. This is the fifth annual, the fifth time we've run this event. And yeah, it's a big thing in a lot of ways because it's got to do with late model stocks. It's got to do with whoever wins this race gets a guaranteed starting spot in the Rodney Cook Classic. So a guaranteed starting top 10 in the Rodney Cook Classic in October. So definitely a pretty big deal for, you know, the 12 cars that we have right now. We had 13 and one backed out. Blake Bledsoe had some engine and transmission problems last minute and was not able to get those kind of repaired in time. So definitely something that we hope for more, and I think we've got two or three more that are seeing how they go through setups and stuff like that to see if they're going to make it in time. And, you know, with having rain here, there, and everywhere, nobody's really able to kind of come get some testing in before, you know, Thursday night. So look forward to everybody here, but we got a really cool guest in the house. Kyle, what's up, man? What do you think about this?
I think it's going to be a good show.
I think what we got right here is probably one of the coolest divisions that we've ran at Ace Speedway that we've started up here in the last couple of years is the Ace Speedway Champ Karts, the Team AG Champ Karts. So here today with us is Tyler Perry. How you doing, buddy?
Doing, man. Good, man. It's good to be here. I'm glad y'all having me.
Thanks for coming, man. We really wanted to. Whoops, Jaxon, your headset is falling off, buddy. There you go. Yeah, you hear that in there? Okay. We like having the karts at the track, and we really wanted to try to give the fans and other, you know, racers or potential champ kart drivers an insight as to what it's like racing at Ace.
So, really, the champ karts or any kind of go-kart racing for that matter, that is one of the tightest, like closest like Talladega or something you're gonna get at Ace Speedway. I mean, some of the races that we've been to, first to 10th might be less than a tenth of a second apart, or further back than that, even that tight.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just this last race, we had a photo finish.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that, you know.
It was a little close, yeah.
you gotta go back and take a picture and say, hey, who really finished that? But luckily we have electronic scoring, so that helps a lot.
Right.
Well, and I know just like the very first race I went over there last year that we ran, that was actually my first time ever running on asphalt. It wasn't the first time in a buggy because we've been racing for about 13 years now and won several races in buggies. And, you know, it was just, it was really cool, you know, to be over there and run with, you know, potentially some of the best guys around to run with. And we were able to pull off that win for Wild Bill's Racing. So it was, he was definitely tickled to death, and I was really honored to drive that memory of Spanky, his brother. So that was a really cool moment to, you know, be able to win a race where my dad's run all these years, and with me growing up, you know, it was really cool.
Now, 13 years in racing. How old are you for the people that don't know?
I'm 23, almost 24. Yeah.
So you started racing go-karts around 10.
Yeah.
You started on a flat cart, champ buggy.
I started on a flat cart that was actually a 99 Phantom Banshee. That was one of the better go-karts back in the day for that time period. But taking into consideration that when we started, I mean, that was like 2009. So that go-kart was considered way out of date then. And my younger brother, he was on a like an 80-some mile straight rail. We think it's a Market. I don't even know what it is, but we busted off and started winning a bunch of races around, and we turned out that we started doing okay and going to big races and stuff like that, and it just kind of escalated from there.
That's awesome, man. You talk about old buggies.
Yeah.
I have seen so many times at a go-kart track where they would get a 2x4 or a stack of 2x4s or a
Track
and they're either prying on the chassis to try to do something or they're jumping on it, and I'm like, How do you know if you went too far?
They say, oh, yeah, that's fine. They say, all right, that's good enough.
Man,
Yeah, you gotta get the flex out of those old chassis. They build them old chassis to flex, so you gotta get the flex out of them.
So the first time that you're at a go-kart track anywhere, where was it?
It was actually at Ace Speedway. It was the old style Ace Speedway that was out in the parking lot, out there like where the ground pounders and all that parked at most of the time. But the racetrack was a lot different back then. It actually had a dog leg in the in the back straightaway, and when you got to turn 3, you was carrying some speed. But it was definitely driver's racetrack.
That was a wild time in Ace Speedway's history for sure. Was when we had the go-kart track out front. I say we, but it wasn't we at the time. It was just speaking as Ace Speedway now. But man, seeing that and getting used to that style of racing, it didn't take too long. But I was there helping out Chase Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Their family and our family, my family's real tight from growing up and racing, dad racing go-karts and then moving up through dirt cars. But so seeing all of that kind of gave me more of a grassroots perspective as to how this stuff starts, and it's really cool to see what length people are willing to go to just to get on the track and race. And that's like, in my opinion, that's real racing right there, because there's not many fans that show up. It's just, the driver, whoever's working on the car, maybe some family, friends, and that's about it.
Yep.
And, not to take away from it any, but that's just, those guys want to race that bad.
Yeah.
And they do what it takes to make it happen. It's really cool to see the amount of detail that they pay attention to, prepping tires. I mean, these guys will soak tires 5 days, 6 days, 2 weeks, whatever in advance, just to make sure they've got.
Sometimes longer than that.
That's crazy. Like I'm thinking to myself, how much do you got to spend on that stuff?
A lot, because there's like some guys. There's some guys whose their whole job is they just prep tires for people.
Yep. And there's a lot of people that have made a living off of it since back in the early 90s, late 80s, and they're still in go-kart racing.
Yeah.
But those are the guys that when you go to the racetrack, you're running with the best of the best, and you better have your jump together, because if not, you're not going to stand a chance.
I remember all the big teams and the big shops back then that they would have, their manufacturer drivers like Miss Hugh and people like that. Like, how big is it now versus what it was, say, 10 years ago? So,
when we first started, back in about 2009, 2010, go-kart racing was really booming back then, and it really escalated as we got into like a third, fourth year. I mean, you started seeing races that were paying $20,000 and $50,000 to win in go-karts, and I mean that's more than a lot of the car races were paying at the time, and now you've dwindled back down to, okay, you're lucky if you see a $5,000 or $10,000 race now, but you've got to pay to play at that level for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I remember Dylan Harville won a pretty big race when I was helping Chase move up through, what was that, like a 3,000 or 5,000 to win, something like that. It was huge, but at the time it was big. It was a big deal. There's a lot of go-karts that tried to make that race, and it was one of those things. It was like, wow, you can win some really big purses.
Yeah.
Doing stuff like this, and so that makes you take it more seriously than, just, yard carting in somebody's backyard.
It's not as simple as you just. A lot of people are mistaken by it too. They think, oh yeah, well we can just throw one together and go take off and run with these guys. That's not how it works. It's a lot of preparation behind it, and it definitely takes a lot of knowledge, because it took us about 7-8 years before we got to where we could run with the guys that had been running for 15-20 years. I mean, and we were going to some of the biggest races as an under budget team and qualifying in the top 10, 15 against like 60, 70 go-karts. I mean, that's what a typical field runs with those races. Back then it did. Now you're lucky if you see maybe 40, 50 at the most. But that's one of those really big paying races, and we've been really fortunate as a low budget team to be able to go and do stuff like that. And God, it really burns people up when we do it, you know. And they're like, man, who is this guy running up front? And they're like, I don't know. But it's definitely really cool, you know. Little brother, he was definitely more the one that was able to do that stuff just because of, you know, he had the access at the time. You know, he was running for bigger names at the time, and definitely their budget was different than ours was. So we kind of had that little bit of knowledge to fall back on every now and then. But it was really cool to be able to see him and do that, and me myself drive for them at times, you know. And it was really neat.
Now, what kind of budget does it take? You talk about budget at that level. What kind of budget do you have to spend versus what they were spending?
So, like, I remember at times, I could remember just to go run one race, like, say it's, just say, for instance, they had the biggest paying junior race in history. It was like $10,000 to win down in South Carolina a couple of years ago.
Goodness.
And Cameron was actually running, my younger brother. And I think we spent close to like $2,500 just in tires before we ever went there.
Now I hear that's easy to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's nothing.
Come in a case. Like I've seen people buying
about
cases.
12 tires in the case. That's just right size. That's not including the lefts and the wheels that you need if you buy new wheels.
We go to Liberty and see people walking out of the parts trailer with a case of tires. I'm like, man, them guys they're getting it done.
That's about $800-900 right there.
But they take those to the track and they start working them, but they don't race them. Then they work. They're 2 or 3. They're 2 or 3 races
that's like
away.
3 or 4 weeks out or later, you know. But and that's the thing, you know, with those higher end teams, like the guys that do it for a living all the time, you know, they've got that stockpile of tires. You know, the low budget guy, he can't afford to do that.
Sorry.
And that's why we kind of got away from that, because it was costing so much. And you know, instead of being able to run every weekend or every other weekend, you might have to wait 2-3 months before you can go run anything and just keep your tires cycled out till then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but unlike late model, you can run several different brands of tires. So not only do you have to have the right tire prep for that race, you have to have the right brand and all that, which is way different than, you know, late model or something like that, where you've got one tire that you run at that track, so everybody's on the same tire. So you could be running against a guy who's just got a way better tire. So you know, you start the race and already you know, like, well, I don't have that tire, so we're starting off at a disadvantage.
Yeah, driver's perspective goes out the window then, yeah. Because if those 4 round things ain't working, you ain't going nowhere. That's what's really nice about, you know, running at y'all's track. With the champ karts, y'all have that tire rule. And you can't prep tires. You gotta leave them there. So that takes that option completely out of it, and it makes the playing field a lot more even on everybody.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of the excess, what I would call excess. You don't have to spend that much money.
Right.
You know, you buy a set of tires. A set of tires costs like, you know, what, $225, $226 at the racetrack. That's 4 tires, and you know, from what Billy tells me, you know, you can run these things 2-3 races to all season, depending on, you know, what everybody else is kind of doing. Yeah. But you know, if they're not soaking them, then that variable is gone. Right. So it's just how good is your kart handling and how much tire are you saving or scrubbing off race to race. Yeah. So Jaxon, you're killing me over here.
Really and truly, if it's working right, you're not losing any rubber.
No, you're not. I've measured them and I'm like, wow.
If anything, you're picking up more rubber than you're laying down.
Woody, if you are watching, I am sorry that this. If you are watching, I am sorry that this did not make it any longer. But Jaxon is over here. I've got the late model diecast of Keith Woody from, God knows when this was, 1999.
There you go.
So
Grand Prix.
Yep. So this thing made it 22 years in the plastic bag, and then Jaxon decided that it was time to open it. So there you go, buddy. Keith Woody, your car's still getting played with, man. So you get to the track. You don't have, you know, a lot of tires to prep. You fill up the tank with methanol, and you go out and practice. You go out and ride. Other than kart handling and, you know, just general getting used to whatever setup you've got, or if you've tried anything different, or if you've gear swapped or anything like that, like what else do you even focus on in that?
Really and truly, you just, at that point, the thing about asphalt racing is so different from dirt track is that the things that would work on a dirt race track completely go out the window. I mean, we have a completely opposite setup from what we run on dirt. And I don't care what anybody says, if they tell you that they run the exact same thing on dirt as they do asphalt, they're probably full of it. Because when we've tried it, it does not work. You will fall off and you will about hit the wall coming off the corner.
Good.
I mean, especially like in a buggy over there, you know, most of the time the fastest a buggy will run is about anywhere between 45, 50. Over there, like you say, you know, they've seen us up to what, 75-ish, 80 close.
Yes, right around
in the
75,
draft.
78 in the draft.
And then when you throw a draft into it, that throws a whole nother ball game in. So you have to set up the go-karts a lot different than you do for a dirt track.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Watching the last 5 laps of these races, race fans, for you people at home who have not been to Ace Speedway to watch a champ kart race, you need to make it happen and you need to go, because I'm telling you, you're missing something spectacular.
It's like watching high-speed chess.
Oh man, he moved his phone.
You said it exactly right. You said it exactly right. It's a chess match. It's all about playing the move at the right time, because if you don't, there's no telling where you're going to wind up. And things can happen so fast at that place. You know, looking at it on the outside in, you don't really think, hey, they're not really moving that fast. But when you sit down in one of them, an inch off the ground, you're getting it around there. And when you throw in that draft and get behind somebody, and you can suck up to them 5 kart lengths behind, coming down the straightaway, you know you're getting it.
And just to let race fans know, like, you know, not trying to be funny or anything, but an inch off the ground is like the size of this 1/64th scale die cast.
Yeah,
I mean, it is next to nothing.
You can't put your hand up under them most of the time. They're that close.
So, you know, these guys are getting it done around the famous 410 Smile in no time flat. Literally, if they hit a rock or a pebble or a chunk of rubber, they're going to feel it. And these guys are doing it now. Literally, the last 5 laps, I'm just sitting here thinking, oh no.
Is it
The last
happen?
thing, you know,
Where's the big one coming? Yeah.
but now all the race fans are standing, cheering, hooting, hollering. These guys are going nuts.
Yeah.
And you know, we thought we'd try it. We wanted to do something big. We had people like Billy come up to us and say, "You should run a go-kart track here, or a go-kart race." And when we did, man, it was something big. So, you know, the last race we had, what, four champ karts, I think. It was kind of a deal where, you know, we were trying to throw it on, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to step on anybody else's toes as far as scheduling goes. You don't want to throw another race on and then you've got some race somewhere that's paying $3,000 to win, and you're like, oh man, how are we going to make this work?
And it was that week. There was actually a big go-kart race that weekend, and I know a lot of buggies went there too. But I think that one was more on the lines like 10,000 to win too. So
yeah, stuff like that.
I mean, it's hard to compete when you got that kind of pull going toward you.
That is just huge. Now, they've probably got some manufacturer support or something like that. I'm gonna call some people and see if I can get something big to happen. Rodney Cook Classic, that's gonna be the last champ kart race at Ace Speedway for 2021, and we're gonna do our best to make something big happen. We're gonna shoot for 20 karts.
It'd be cool to see another full field of them again.
I was gonna say, and if you see any more than that, it will be just like running Daytona Talladega. I mean, it's gonna look like a restrictor plate race to the very end.
Because I think to this point, if you get enough karts up there, you can make that outside groove.
Oh yeah, you can. That's the thing. If you've got enough guys, you'll see that outside line run like you did back in 2019. I mean, there's still videos of it on YouTube that you can go back and see. And actually, before I started running over there, every racetrack I go to, I study it every single time, and especially if it's somewhere I haven't been before. And just like before I ever ran the first race at Ace last year, which was the race before the Rodney Cook, we tested over there with y'all for like 6-7 months almost. I mean, it was sent back earlier in that year, and I'm glad we did, because going back and doing that homework put us where we were at the end of the race.
Absolutely. I think there's something to that too, making sure that you spend an adequate amount of time testing, but not forsaking actual race time, because the draft is so big.
And it's a lot different than when you got to go karts.
And you don't really get that
right
in practice mode, especially because we all get separated out and we're just practicing, seeing what shakes out. But I really think that 20 karts is probably a max. I don't know if we're going to go.
I think that would probably be pretty good.
If we did any more than that,
yeah,
I'd be like, yikes. yikes.
Yeah,
More than
25,
that.
yeah,
I'd be like, yikes.
Yeah, you're gonna start sitting on the edge of your seat pretty good.
If you get more than 20, we're going to need to run some A and B mains to get the field set.
Oh man, we could do that. My wheels are turning.
His wheels are turning now.
So you've run karts for the last 13 years. You're 23 years old. You got a lot of time left. What does the future look like for Tyler Perry?
Well, I don't really know yet. I have high hopes of, maybe eventually, not with the budget that we're on, can't do it, but it would be cool to either sit in like a modified or a late model car eventually, kind of pursue like what my dad wanted to and just couldn't afford to. But that's always been something, my dream since I was a kid was to be able to pursue what I love, and that's racing.
I think you want that one? The Intimidator? 3-foot Dale? Can you hold up 3-foot Dale? I think going from champ kart, I think you would be killer in a modified. They're still low to the ground,
Yeah.
And what's cool is I just practiced one time like 3 years ago for blooper. So Gary Causey had like 3 of these things at the racetrack one day. He's like, get in one. And I was like, well, I've never driven one, so here we go. What's really crazy about those things, when you sit down in them, the top of your head is like right up here. You can see the wheels move.
And everything, yeah.
I think I would have so much fun racing one of those because when you go through the corner and you can see everything move, it's like a test session during the race. You can pay attention to how everything's working. You pay attention to how the car handles. At the same time as you can watch wheel input and see what's moving and what's not moving.
Yeah.
Man, I think that'd be so cool to actually race some of those. But I think champ buggies would probably feed into a modified really well.
Well, you don't have nothing around the front tires. You really got to pay attention to what you're doing, and somewhere like Ace where things happen that quick, you have to be able to judge fast. And just like a modified car, if you get up in somebody's back bumper, you're going over top of them with the front tire. I mean, it's the same way in the champ buggy.
Yeah, but you got to have that passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, you got to play it smart. That's the thing in a buggy. You don't want to hit somebody because when you do, you lose all the momentum you got.
That's right. Now here in a full body car or full size car, full scale car, whatever you call it, they don't. You lose momentum for a lap, and then you can make it back up in a lap or so, but you do lose a little bit. Whereas with some other cars, you don't lose it as much. But what, son? What do you want? So I think that would be a really cool thing for you guys to try and look into. And there's a ton of them out there, and you could probably get in one super cheap.
Yeah.
Or if nothing else, you could at least drive one for somebody for a year or for a couple races and see how it works.
Try it out a little bit.
Yeah, Gary Causey's got a ton of those things, man. You could get him. I think Gary Young Jr. has 2. I can't remember if he still got his other one or not. I'd have to see if it was at his other shop or something like that. All these guys are more than happy to try to help grow the class and let somebody else try one out or take a few laps in it, see if they think they like it, and then go from there to rent one out or sell one. There's a lot of them still out there, so I'm pretty sure we can make something like that happen for you if you were interested in something like that later on.
Cool, yeah.
But now you can't quit the champ car stuff.
No,
you gotta keep.
We ain't quitting that. We've stuck with that for too long. It's not abandoning that unless a major opportunity come along.
Now, how do you, after 13 years, how do you come into racing with Billy?
So, Billy grew up around, I grew up with Billy being around the machine shop where my older brother's dad worked at, and anyways.
He's talking about Deep Creek, just in case anybody's wondering.
Deep Creek Motors.
Deep Creek Motors.
Yeah. And, seeing Billy around there and my dad's old late model motors, they used to build them too, so we'd see Billy from time to time, and then growing up into go-kart racing and stuff, when we got into that, Billy was still going to the go-kart races and running buggies, of all things, and it wasn't long ago, he, probably about, back in 2015, my older brother passed away, And then Billy's brother a few years later also did, which was Spanky.
Spanky.
Yeah, and then it wasn't long after that Billy asked me, he said, hey, you want to drive this in memory of Spanky? And I said, heck yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, and then wound up the first race I run with his go-kart, and you actually did the wrap on the go-kart, and we won the first race that I run in it. So that was really special. But,
how much fun is it to run for him? Because you always look like you're having a blast.
oh man, he's a live wire. He always keeps it exciting, and he is one of the biggest junk talkers. But at the end of the day, he's the biggest teddy bear, and he's just a good down to earth guy, and he'll do anything for anybody.
He's been trying to get Dad and I on two of these cars, and I said, man, I outweigh Dad by a good 20-30 pounds. So
we can throw a little bit of lead.
Throw a chunk of lead on there or something. Throw a sheet in the seat.
Yeah.
So let us know, Ace Speedway. Do you want to see that race happen?
Man.
I wouldn't mind it. Yeah.
See if we can get Dad's old self in one. He's pushing 60, man. Oh, I don't know.
Are you psyching yourself out right now, though?
Oh no!
Oh, you already
giving him
myself
out.
I think he's trying to talk himself up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's got. Oh man!
Don't want Dad to put hurting on him.
That's right.
Yeah, Kyle, have you ever sat down and talked with Billy?
I've talked with him once or twice, and he's always got something cool to talk about. You know what I mean? He's never at a loss for words. You know what I mean? He's always got something going on.
He is never a dull moment with him. And he will come up with some of the craziest stories, and it's just, and you look at him like, what?
Ask him if he needs any BBs.
Any
BBs. So seriously, we call him BB when he shows up here at the shop now.
Yeah.
He'll come over here and talk his junk. And so one day, it was probably 6 to 12 months ago. We'd just moved into the shop and we were still getting, some organization going on, and I don't know how, but I had a box or a container of the King Grover brand or Daisy brand BBs, and this dude comes in here and he just starts flapping them gums, and I'm like, what is he talking about this time? So I turned around from, I was getting some stuff off a printer, and I was like, Billy, what are you doing? And next thing you know, all you hear is something crash, and then it was like Skittles. You ever dropped a bag of Skittles? And it just exploded and went everywhere. And I mean, this thing had 2,000 BBs in it, and they go all over the floor. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. And he just stands there with his elbow propped up on the shelf that he knocked it off of, and he's like, what?
Like he didn't even face.
He knew what he had done, but he was just going to try to play it off like, what are you talking about? So
something really really cool about Bill is he's been on me for a while about he's like, hey, let's build a go-kart, let's build a test kart, and we actually started working on one a couple weeks ago. And we've actually completed the first test kart for Wild Bill's Racing now, so that'll definitely be one that we're looking forward to trying out over there at Ace. So
wait a minute, a test kart?
Yeah, we actually built a new champ buggy.
You built your own frame.
Yep, we built our own champ buggy.
This is new development race. This is new development race, fans. It looks like Billy might be in the rental program if anybody's interested in coming out.
Right now it's R&D stage, but like I say, it's definitely a long ways to go. But we always wanted to build one. I built a flat kart or two before with my dad, back when we used to race all the time on dirt tracks, and we actually took it and ran really good with some of the best, and it was a one of a kind. And after we started having some issues with it, I finally said, look, we just need to put it aside for now and go back to what we know works, and started running that front again, But it was definitely cool, to take that knowledge that we found from that, and then take and put it into this aspect too. Because with Billy's buggy that I'm running, that chassis is 15, 16 years old.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's the oldest buggy in the field, and anywhere we go with it. What's
really big about this is you guys are doing this yourself. You probably don't have much. Probably don't have do you have anything more than like a tape measure and a level, to try to put these things together to try to weld them up, or do you have you fab your own jig?
Well,
how do you?
You haven't really gotten into the jig stage yet because you got to find something that works, and then you go back to the jig.
So race fans, if you haven't seen a champ kart or a go kart, any kind of kart, the way the front hub and everything bolts together, the spindle and everything, it goes through like a C-channel piece of steel, and you can rotate it to get the caster that you want. And it's got these. Oh man, we had the big one over here. So this is what we don't want to see happen in champ karts. But anyway, so you can
we don't want that.
You can move these things with these little. You've got these little hash marks to reference by, and they're not but like 1/8 of an inch apart. So just the slightest tweak or the slightest miscalculation can be a huge change, something detrimental or very advantageous to these karts. So you gotta be spot on with these things if you want to find the maximum amount of speed. So really, hats off to you guys for doing that with no more than what you've got going on right now until you can build a jig and get some consistency. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're really looking forward to, and we're really proud of it because it took us a little while to get to that stage and kind of get brave enough to. We were like, well, yeah, we'll try. We've done stuff over the years and stuff, and it's like I told him, I said, I'll do 90% of the fab work and all that stuff and do the welding, and if it works, we'll build some more of them. We'll have a whole team of them. But it's definitely it's a long road ahead, but we'll see where it goes. I've called a couple people about as far as like rule book stuff, as far as the chassis go, and did my homework on it, and so here we are. We're gonna try one out and see if it works.
That sounds good. So it sounds like that's pretty big as far as what you and Billy are trying to achieve, and I think that's going to do nothing but help. The Champ Kart series at Ace, and Champ Karts anywhere.
Yeah.
So really, I had to look at my schedule while you were talking, but September 17th is the next Champ Kart race at Ace Speedway. So the actual last regular season event, September 17th. Make sure you can either get your tickets online or you can buy them the day of at the ticket booths, front or back stretch. Everything's open. Don't miss this show. This is something big, and this is going to lead up to the Champ Kart race at the Rodney Cook Classic, which is going to be a $1,000 to win guaranteed Champ Kart race. So if you Champ Kart guys are watching, I'm calling you all out for a $1,000 to win Champ Kart race, October 23rd. That's a Saturday at Ace Speedway. You got to be there. If you want to win big, if you want to get some cool trophies, if you want to have some cool bragging rights, you're going to win the last race before March of 2022 when we get you guys back on track. So, it's a lot of talking going on right here. So who's going to get that $1,000 to win? I know Billy wants to get him some more.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we might do something cool for that race. Maybe a throwback scheme for Spanky or something from back when him and Billy used to run all the time. That would be a really cool thing to do, I think, for that race. And there was even talks of him maybe putting me in Spanky's old uniform or something for that race. So
that'd be awesome.
It'd be something really cool,
Oh, Spanky, man, that dude probably forgot more than I know. It was so cool to go into the dirt shop and see all these different like this dude literally could build a body piece by piece. They had some cardboard templates and all that stuff, but they could build. He had the big stomp shear and brake and all in house, and he could build the doors and the quarters and roll everything how he wanted to. And I remember they would call and want a different wrap or something else because they've got different amounts of rake in this body versus another body, and I'm like,
it's definitely a lot of science that went into some of it,
Really cool though, because a lot of this is just done by thought, and we're gonna tweak. We're gonna put a couple extra degrees in this on the right rear. We're gonna put this much more air on this part of the car, because when the car rolls over like that, it's a big.
Just like these, we've actually been doing a little bit of stuff with aero, changing up different things on the bodies, and it does react a lot different than what it would otherwise.
I'm gonna tell you what's funny about that. He was actually ahead of the game because this new NASCAR Eagle Eye testing deal they've got.
Yep.
Well, they were putting all kinds of crazy curves in the body, and they were hiding it with certain, like if you put a dark piece of wrap beside a high contrast color piece of wrap,
make it disappear.
It would trick the sensor. So he was essentially doing the same thing, not for the same reasons, but they were doing the same thing.
Yeah. So we're talking about aero. Wings on the Champ Kart. This is a huge debate. Is it going to make them faster or slower?
Honestly, I think it'll tighten them up a lot. I think it would make them slower. But then again, if it made them slower, they might want to try to make you put a bigger motor on. I don't know. And I don't really want to do that either, because then that gets you out of that budget range where you have to start stepping on up again.
So here's the other question then too, is when you put that on, and you've got that much wind and that much downforce, it's all up high. So kind of like when we had the sprint cars at Ace a couple years ago. They've got a wing on the front of the car and on top of the car, but these things, they just move so much air.
Yeah.
They are going crazy wicked fast. Going around the Ace in 13 seconds or less. I actually put a bounty up. I said I want to see a 12.83. If I can see a 12.83, somebody's getting $500. And nobody could do it. They couldn't get that close, but I knew somebody was going to break 13 seconds, and they got really close, but no cigar.
Yeah, they were getting down. And I remember seeing them even when I was younger, But those guys in their sprint cars, it's the real deal. When they come around there, you see the slipstream coming off the wings on them. I mean, the vapor trail is real.
Oh, yeah.
They're moving that fast.
But is it gonna make the Champ Car handle better? Is it gonna want to try to make it roll differently? Like I'm kind of weary on this because it's not like Ace is a super flat corners. We've got some banking to play with. So what is that?
Well, and I'm kind of curious too. Like you've seen spins in the buggies.
Yeah.
And you've also seen spins in NASCAR too, like in Daytona. Well, the only other question is what happens when the air gets up under one of them.
When you go backwards, you start lifting.
So that could be where we could engineer some kind of flap
like
into
a flap
it.
To release the pressure.
Yeah, you just release it. So you just cut a flap that's 15-20% of the area.
I'm going to turn off for secret. there might be a fabrication plan there.
Yeah, well, hey, you never know. I wonder if it's going to be beneficial for safety or anything like that. What can we do?
It just be one of those things you have to try it out,
Yeah.
It about have to, like you say, it's one of those things you have to try it out,
Yeah.
It about have to, like you say, run a test station and see.
I think we could probably get somebody. Maybe Billy could fab something up.
Yeah, me and Billy could definitely do something.
Yeah.
Figure it out, but I just don't. I don't know how some of those guys feel about it. I know all the buggy guys have normally been used to running, just bare cage and just regular bodies, and so that they may or may not jump on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be one of them things you'd have to try it out, see, and
I'd be curious. I know some people don't like it. Yeah. That run other tracks.
But there's a lot of places that do run them like that too. Though. I think Langley Speedway, runs them like that too.
With the wing?
Yeah, I think so.
I have to look into that. Maybe I can give them a call and see what they think about it.
I wonder if it would knot up the field. Like, remember when they used to have the wicker strips across the top of the NASCAR cars?
Yeah.
I wonder if it would.
I definitely don't think you'd see them spread out as much, which can be good or bad. But you're still not going to see most of the time. If you get a big field of good fast buggies, you're not going to see two guys walk off and leave everybody unless they just got good motors.
Or unless they get tired like Billy.
Start waving at everybody. Yeah. God, that's been the talk of the week. Some people just wave at everybody.
You finally got your first Team AG trophy at Ace Speedway.
Yeah.
And did you have to give that to Billy?
Yes, he took it. Hey, but it's all right. I got this last one the other week, so I said, well, it's one of those things. I'd rather see him have it. Get the enjoyment out of it. Because he walks in the house every day. He's got it sitting right there at the corner when he walks in the door.
I feel sorry for his wife sometimes. Because she's probably thinking he likes that thing more than me.
Well, anytime that I'm, about every time I come over, he's down there in the shop working on the go-karts. And I'll get in there and start working on them with him,
I bet you, I'd bet you $100 he's probably not even having to clean it. You get to the, you get done at the end of the night, and ain't no cleaning left.
He said, you see all this? He talks about us in dirt track. He said, you saw this? He talks about us in dirt track. He said, you see this? I don't have to clean it. All I gotta do is just keep the bearings up and everything and go.
There you go. Race fans, we really appreciate you guys listening in for another episode of the Ace Speedway Recap with Jason, Kyle, Jackson, and Tyler.